Alright guys, what's up? Supplement company bullshit time. See if you could spot the bullshit. Watch this video.
What's the biggest difference between whey protein and beef protein isolate?
The biggest thing is just that the whey is all dairy because it's coming from the milk of the cow.
Probably the dumbest answer I've ever heard, because that's like if somebody asks me what's the difference between corn protein and beef protein, and I go, well, corn protein comes from corn. That's essentially what the guy said. So no, the biggest difference between whey protein and beef protein is how well the body could use one over the other. And that's judged scientifically by the digestible indispensable amino acid score. Okay, whey protein ranks higher. Okay, it's about, I think it's hovering between 90 and 100, depending on whether it's an isolate or a concentrate, or even a hydrolyzed protein. Beef protein ranks low. Well, it doesn't rank low, but lower than most proteins like egg and casein and fish. That's going to be down there. I believe it's around 70. So that's going to be the biggest difference, but this idiot is not done talking, so let's keep going.
Beef protein comes from the actual muscle tissue in the bone. And
God, this guy, so he literally goes like this. The protein comes from the actual muscle tissue in the bone. I can't make this up.
the hide of the animal. It's coming from the bone marrow, the leaner parts of the animal, a bunch of different organs like liver, heart, spleen, pancreas.
Then he proceeds to explain what he thinks where beef protein comes from when it clearly doesn't. I'll tell you where it comes from when I'm finished with this guy. But he says that it comes from the hide, the marrow, and that's exactly where you don't want it to come from. Okay, because there's barely any protein in those sources anyway, and it's collagen, okay, otherwise known as gelatin, and it's an incomplete protein. So that's where your collagen comes from. The collagen, that's why I've always said collagen is a shitty protein, because you're swallowing the hide, the marrow, just the junk from the animal, and it's an incomplete protein, so you have zero chance of going into an anabolic condition if you drink just collagen protein. And then he claims that his beef protein comes from organs, which I call bullshit. Beef protein, and I've sold beef protein before, directly from New Zealand, like the good stuff. It comes directly, you want good beef protein isolate to come from the muscle, the tissue, the steak, essentially. All right, you don't want it to come from the hide or the skin or the hooves, but that's what they do with beef protein. You got to be very careful because that's why the DIA is so low, because barely any companies, with the exception of, I know of one company from New Zealand that sells beef protein 100% from the muscle. All right, so that's that. We'll continue.
I just incorporate it just very uniquely through.
So there you have it, just another idiot on TikTok that thinks he knows what he's talking about when he doesn't. He's just trying to sell his beef protein because whey protein is skyrocketing in prices. So all these supplement companies like this guy is trying to sell you other protein sources like beef because it's much cheaper than whey right now. And he failed miserably because there's guys like me on TikTok that will always tell you the truth. Make sure you follow me.